Okay, now that we have finished the World War II, this is what happened following the war. So remember, we have the European front is in shambles. Japan has just surrendered, and now we have to look at who are the world powers, how does it all get cleaned up, and what happens next. So the formation of the United Nations. It was formed near the end of World War II in order to create a body for the nations of the world to try to prevent future global wars. This tries to pick up where the League of Nations kind of fell off. The League of Nations failed because there wasn't enough support for it. Now that we've had a second world war, now everybody's kind of like, okay, we really need to fix this. And also because of the atomic bomb now, that scares a lot of the countries into, hey, we don't ever want this to happen again. So if you look, this is the amount of nuclear weapons that the United States and the Soviet Union had over the course of the years following World War II. So you see how large the amount of nuclear weapons they had. This is very scary. So Japan after World War II, it was occupied by American forces. First off, they adopted a democratic form of government, so they got rid of the emperor and everything. They resumed self government while America was kind of watching over. And then they became a strong ally of the United States after the war. And they still are a strong ally of ours today. In Europe, it was a mess. Russia lost 20 million soldiers and civilians. Germany killed 6 million Jews. That's not even talking about the soldiers that died fighting in the war. Poland, 4.3 million were dead. Yugoslavia, 1.7 million were dead. Japan lost 1.2 million. And Italy lost 410,000. It's incredible how much death and destruction there was following World War II. You can see the destruction in these images. Like, these cities got completely destroyed. People lost their homes, their jobs because of all of this fighting. Outcomes. So after World War II, Germany got divided into two separate countries, and then they were occupied by multiple nations. So you've got Britain, France, the United States, and the Soviet Union occupying Germany. Berlin also, since it was the capital, was divided, but it was divided in half too, even though it's right in the middle of Soviet Union territory. So you can see on this map now, this is a lot clearer, West Germany and then East Germany. So the US and Britain and France occupied West Germany, and they were democratic, they resumed self-government, and they were influenced by the United States' democracy. The eastern part was occupied by Soviet Union. It became a communist state, completely dominated by the Soviet Union. You also have a wall going up in the middle of Berlin to divide East Berlin and West Berlin. The two major superpowers were the US and the Soviet Union. The US was democratic. The Soviet Union believed in a totalitarian government with communist economies, which spread communism. We believed in a free market economy, or capitalism, as we still know it today. We believed in a unified Germany. Soviet Union wanted to keep Germany divided with a buffer zone. The US believed in a stable Europe that could decide for themselves what they wanted to do, and it also meant that there were more markets for our American goods. And the Soviet Union wanted to control Eastern Europe to balance American influence in the West. The Cold War basically lasted from the end of World War II in 1945 until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1989. So we were scared of communist domination of the world, and that led to our post-war foreign policies quite a bit. So we were very afraid that if one country fell to communism, the rest around it would fall too. So the Truman Doctrine, policy of containment. So we wanted to stop the spread of communism into Turkey and Greece. And Truman said that it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressures. Basically, don't let these countries fall to communism. We provided $400 million in economic and military aid to prevent that from happening. So containment. At the end of World War II, Soviet forces occupied most of Eastern and Central Europe and the eastern portion of Germany. The US decided it had to do whatever was necessary to contain communism. So again, containment was to stop the spread of communism into other countries. If you look at the political cartoon on the left, that's talking about the wall that went up between Berlin, or West Berlin and East Berlin. And it was kind of an imaginary wall too through Europe called the Iron Curtain, where you didn't cross between Western and Eastern. The Marshall Plan. That was proposed by the United States to prevent the spread of communism in Europe after World War II. It also was there to provide massive financial aid to help rebuild the European economies that were destroyed following World War II. And it was also to help prevent that spread of communism. If you look at this map, it shows you how much aid we gave each country through the Marshall Plan from 1948 to 1952. So before and after the Marshall Plan, you see how defeated it looks on the left, and on the right, it's gotten quite a bit rebuilt. After World War II, you also have these agreements that came up. NATO versus the Warsaw Pact. So in 1949, the US formed a defensive alliance known as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. Their goal was to prevent a Soviet invasion of Western Europe. These countries worked together and vowed to support one another in the event of an attack. In 1955, the Soviet Union responded by forming the Warsaw Pact with 7 Eastern European powers. For nearly 50 years, both sides maintained large military forces facing each other in Europe. So this shows you the green on the map is NATO, the orange on the map is the Warsaw Pact. So you can see how Europe was strongly divided following World War II.